Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Talks with Tatyana. On today's episode, I will be talking with a special guest about her journey with breast cancer, advice on ways to take care of your health, and symptoms to check for in honor of it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, breast cancer is one of the most common type of cancers in American women. According to the Cancer Center, it accounts for 1 in 3 cancer diagnoses in American women. I also want to mention that breast cancer can happen in men as well, but it is a lot less common. And according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, only about 1 out of every 100 breast cancer diagnoses is in men. The Cancer Center defines breast cancer as a common term for a cancerous tumor that starts in the cells that line the ducts or lobes of the breast. Breast cancer is not one disease, rather it is several diseases that behave differently. There isn't one clear reason as to what exactly causes breast cancer, but some factors are things like a family history of breast cancer, late menopause, increasing age, and many other things. In today's episode, I have invited my gorgeous, strong, amazing, powerful, and every positive adjective in the dictionary, Aunt Cyndi, to tell us about her journey with breast cancer and ways to look out for your health. Aunt Cyndi, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. As Tatyana has told you that I'm her aunt, and I am a breast cancer survivor 2 times. As being a survivor, to try to help others with their struggle when they find out that they are diagnosed with breast cancer.
So thank you so much for being a part of today's show. How are you?
I am great, and I'm honored to be one of your guests today.
So, my first question for you, so can you start off by telling a little bit about your journey, like when you were diagnosed with breast cancer and how did you find out?
I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1996. I was 5 months pregnant with my youngest son, who is now 24 years old. At the time that I found the lump, even though I was pregnant, I still did my monthly exam, and I felt something that didn't feel right. And when I told my doctor about it, he told me it was a milk kennel that pregnant women get when they're pregnant. So as weeks went by, the lump started getting a little harder, and it started getting soft. I mean, not soft, but it started getting harder and a little sore. So when I brought it back up to my doctor again, he said, let's do a needle biopsy. So you'll be relieved that it's just a milk kennel. So as he did the needle biopsy, we waited for a couple of days, and then they called me back to come in. And they explained to me that it was breast cancer. It was positive. And so at that point, I was 5 months pregnant, like I said, and they wanted to go ahead and rush with it because it was 3.5 centimeters long. And what they would say is just like the half size of a walnut. And so they wanted to go ahead and try to start with procedures and everything to try to get a early start on it. Well, they wanted me to abort my pregnancy at 5 months, and they were going to give me something to help me to abort my pregnancy. But I told them, no, I'm not aborting my pregnancy. I'm going to go forth with my pregnancy. So they gave me some sign, some advice that something like carry on the gene into my son, and he's 24, healthy, just left to go to the Navy, and nothing is wrong with him, praise God. He's just as healthy and as he want to be. So after giving birth to him, they immediately started with everything. I had a lumpectomy done. After the lumpectomy is where they remove the lump out of the breast, and then they follow up with treatment. So I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy, and then I followed, after the chemotherapy, 33 rounds of radiation. And after that was completed, and they did testing again, and I was cancer free.
So you said it was 3 centimeters. So what stage were you diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed stage. It was one. It was going into the
Okay.
second. It was right on the tip of going into my second stage. And
Oh,
I was 27 at the time. And with breast cancer, you can't get a mammogram unless, well, insurance tell you can't have a mammogram until you're 40. But now things are changing because women are getting breast cancer at an early age now.
mhm,
And back then, it was just a shock that to my doctors that I was so young and had breast cancer.
mhm. Right. And so you said that it was initially detected through like self-check,
Yes, self check.
and then they were able to give you a mammogram
Well,
after.
I didn't have a mammogram.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a mammogram then because when they did the need a biopsy,
Mhm,
to start to sort, to give me some relief, that
mhm,
they thought it wasn't cancer. They just thought it was milk thinner. But when you know your body and you know that
mhm.
something isn't right, that's why you need to. I tell and encourage women to know your body. Know
Right.
when you don't feel well. Know when something is going wrong. I don't care how many times you have to call the doctor. Go.
Mhm,
A lot of people do this Google now, trying to figure out what's wrong and put
mhm.
their symptoms in, but Google can't help you. Just go to your doctor, schedule an appointment, and go.
Right. And so how did you like feel like emotionally when you first received the news?
Emotionally, when I first found out, only thing I could think about was my youngest son, whom I was pregnant with, and my older two sons,
Mhm,
who at the time was 3 and 4,
mhm,
and worrying about if I didn't make it through, who was going to care for them.
mhm,
And that was my most concern. But after, you know, your grandmother, my mom, who
mhm.
is a mighty warrior, and
Yes.
with her teaching me and pushing me through with the Word of God,
Mhm,
um, yeah, it pushed through, and I stood on God's word. I stood on faith, and
mhm.
it got me through it. So that's what I encourage everyone: just stand on God's word, His promises. He give us His promises in His word, and they shall come forth if you just have faith and just trust Him and take Him at His word.
Mhm. Right, yes. And so, speaking of like my grandmother and great grandmother, like how did you choose to share the news with like your family and friends?
Well, I told your great grandmother, my mom.
Mhm.
After telling her, she encouraged me, and so then telling your grandmother and my other sister, your grandmother, my sister, and my other sister,
Mhm.
telling them they were my backbones through all of this because I was even going through a divorce at the time. So
Mhm.
everything was just weighing down on me. But the encouragement from my two sisters and my mom and my father was awesome. And just, that's what pushed me through, and prayer. It pushed me through.
Right. Yes. And is there like a family history at all of breast cancer?
There is my father's sister had breast cancer, and she passed away with breast
Mhm.
cancer, the diagnosis. Her daughter also had breast cancer, and she passed away from breast cancer.
Mhm.
So, as you know, my two siblings, my two sisters, they are, I think my oldest sister is like 21 years or 22 years older than me. And
Mhm.
then my other sister, which is your grandmother, she is 20 years older than me. So it skipped those generations and hit me. So there is a family history, but it was so unexpected that to skip those two generations and come
Mhm.
to, yeah.
And so I guess as like a follow-up question, did you know anybody like personally that had breast cancer and like did that make you feel better at all?
No, I
Oh,
didn't know anybody. I met some. They had a support group at the
mhm,
cancer center that I was going to in Greenwood, and I
mhm,
met some fabulous, encouraging ladies there that was going through, and they was much older than me as well. So I was the young buck of the crew. But they encouraged me as well. They gave me some great advice going through and everything. So that helped a lot.
And so I know, like, with just any cancer in general, like the treatment process can be like a bit overwhelming. So do you mind sharing like what sort of treatment you received and like what that process was like for you?
Well, I had, like I stated, I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy. And
Hmm.
at first, the chemo it's harsh, and it does take a toll on your body.
Hmm.
Um, it makes your hair come out. It turns your skin different colors. You're fatigued all the time. Sometimes you're nauseous and you can't hold anything on your stomach. Sometimes you don't have an appetite. Um, and with all of that, I always tell people or women to take chemo and don't let chemo take you. Because when these symptoms and stuff starts to happening, you lose this weight, you're fatigued, and your mind is set. Oh, I got to take this chemo. I'm not gonna feel well. So you already have it made up in your mind that you're going to be sick. But your mind triggers so much. So if you can just take control of your mind, it'll take control of your body. So I tell them just to take the chemo and be uplifted with it, even when you don't feel good, even when you feel bad, still push through.
Right, yes. And so, like, how did you, or what did you turn to as far as helping you get through that process, like mentally and like physically through chemo?
Hanging out with family and friends and just enjoying life. Just enjoy life. Just
Mhm.
because you're diagnosed with cancer, it doesn't
Right.
mean it's a death sentence.
Mhm.
Just go do what your doctors tell you to do. On top of praying, on top of when you don't feel good, seeking God. Um, just enjoy life.
After your diagnosis, like what life changes did you have to face? Like, were you able to still work at all or?
I did. Well, at that time, I wasn't working.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't working at that time. So really nothing changed. I was just a cancer survivor, a breast cancer survivor. Nothing really
Mhm.
changed but my story. That's it.
Yes. And what were some of your biggest challenges with like your day-to-day life with cancer?
Um, Trying to take care of a newborn.
Mm.
That was, and
Mhm.
take care of 2 other little ones, but I had the help of my parents and my siblings.
Mhm.
And their godmother, they stepped in. I really didn't, but having an infant child, um, as a mother's nature, you want to care for your own child being so young. But thank God for my parents and my siblings that stepped in.
Yes. So would you say like family and like prayer and everything was like your getaway to like just ease your
Yeah,
mind through the journey?
yes. Just hanging out with family and friends. When our family get together, it's
Yeah.
nothing but laughs and jokes and food.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what really got me through. Just try not to focus on what you have going on
Mhm.
within yourself, and just focus on just fun and just
Mhm.
enjoying life.
Yes. Yeah, definitely having supportive family and friends I
Yes,
feel like is helpful in a lot of situations. So,
it is.
yes.
It is.
And so when did you find out you were breast cancer free and how did you feel after that?
Well, after I took my last chemo treatment, I think I danced all day for the rest of the week. But after that last chemo, so I thought radiation was gonna be terrible, but it was a
Mhm.
it wasn't. The radiation, it wasn't terrible at all. Once I finished up, got my divorce, I was happy. Me and the boys moved to from Greenwood to Columbia. We started a whole new life.
Mhm.
And then after it was just us and enjoying life at the best we could.
Yes, and, how long, did you have cancer for before you were able to get that last round?
After I was diagnosed, I gave, let me see, after they started the treat after I had the surgery, they started the treatment probably 2 weeks later after I had the lump removed. And we just, after that treatment was over, I think 2 weeks afterwards, I was cancer free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they did the testing again and everything was fine. The numbers had came down. So I was cancer free. I just had to follow up with radiation.
Okay. And I think like a common thing that people really misunderstand is that after a person is free of cancer, that everything is like okay and like back to normal. But like, what would you say is like the real aftermath of like just physically and mentally after going through cancer?
Well, your health, your fitness,
Mm-hmm.
your eating habits, and just going to the doctor and getting your regular checkups. Like, because after I was diagnosed, after the treatments and stuff, I had to go to the doctor every 6 months so they can do ultrasound, make sure everything was fine and everything was fine. And leaving Greenwood and having to find doctors in Columbia. I have an awesome team here. But and once you just live life and try to again just know your body. Know when you don't feel good. Know when something is going on with your body. Know when you don't try to diagnose yourself or get somebody else to diagnose you. Go to the doctor. It's just only a little trip to the doctor. Take time out for yourself and go to the doctor. And always do your monthly exams. It's real simple. Just lay flat on your back, put your arm up over your head, and just feel around and make sure you feel up on your arms as well. Because back in the day, when we used to get, I don't know about you or anybody else, sometimes you can get those little knots up on your arms and it'd be so sore. And they say, oh, it's just a deodorant knot. But actually it could be a nodule, which is called a lymph node that has swollen. And if that's the case, you still need to go to the doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and so speaking of like the aftermath of cancer, I learned that there is something called the cancer recurrence, which is when cancer comes back into the body. And according to the American Cancer Society, recurrent cancer might come back in the same place it first started, or it might come back like somewhere else in the body. Have you experienced this? And if you did, like, how did you feel and how did you overcome that?
9 years later, after moving to Columbia, I did my breast exams and everything. And probably after being cancer free for about 6 years, I started feeling something in my other breast, my left breast. And once I started feeling something in that breast, they were telling me that it was just the fibrocystic. It was something fibrocystic and wasn't nothing to be alarmed about or anything. So the 6 months visit started going to 3 months visit because they just wanted to keep a check on it and keep an eye on it. So I was doing ultrasounds at that time, and doing the ultrasounds, they kept telling me it's fibrocystic tumors. It's just fibrocystic tumors. It's nothing to be alarmed about. And the last time I went, I told him, I said, listen, is there anything we can do about it? Because of my history, I just want to make sure that it's not another lump that I'm feeling. So he was like, yeah, we can aspirate them. So as he began to start to aspiration is where they stick a needle into the breast and aspirate the fibrocystic tumors. And then they aspirated in a needle. And he aspirated 3 of them. And on the 3rd one, at that he aspirated, he kept looking at the film and just kept looking, and he started moving his little ball around on the ultrasound machine. I said, what do you see? I asked him. He was like, well, let me just continue to look. And sure enough, when he aspirated that fibrocystic tumor, it was actually a tumor behind it that was cancerous. So when he found that, and my breast, that left breast had gotten bigger than the right breast. So actually that tumor had almost taken over my left breast. So immediately we did the genetic testing. The genetic testing is a test that they do to see if you have a genetic gene And after I did the genetic testing, I was positive for the genetic gene. I was BRCA1 and BRCA2 for the genetic testing. But what they don't tell you is when you're positive for the gene, especially for the BRCA1 and 2 for both genes, so that means you have cancer on both sides of the family. So I tested positive for both. So when you test positive, they should tell you to, if you're not planning on having children or anything, to actually do a hysterectomy, have a complete hysterectomy done, so you won't have to worry about ovarian cancer. But after being diagnosed the second time, it really took me to a really dark place, because it was just me and my son's here at the time, and going through that period of time, and I had to have a double mastectomy. And after having a double mastectomy, I had a reconstruction. But with the friends that I couldn't, my family wasn't here, like they were when I was diagnosed the first time. But we still had that phone call communication. They would come down when I had treatments to be encouraging to me. And so and the fun part about it, when you start having the reconstruction, and my girlfriends, they would always say, hey, look, you was a small cup when you were younger. You was a size A, you didn't have nothing. Now you can look at it like this, you can go as big as you want to. So that, so they made fun of that. So, and we, just stuff like that, little stuff to get you over a hard time. But after that, and getting through that, and then I actually got married again, and going through that whole process in the marriage that I was in was horrible. It was really, really horrible. But God saw me through it. He saw me through it. Yes.
Yes, I feel like I always tell people all the time that you're such like a powerful, strong, and very resilient woman. So I admire you so much.
Thank you, baby. God is awesome.
Yes. And I know like a common thing like some women are afraid of is getting like mammograms. Like, so what would you say like that process is like, and what advice would you give for women that are afraid?
Don't be afraid to get a mammogram. I hear a lot of ladies say, oh Lord, I gotta go get a mammogram. So one person, when you hear one person, they make it sound so bad. It's not bad at all. It's just putting your breast, it's gonna be a machine. And it's just you standing forward to the machine, and you're putting your breast on that machine. And once you put your breast on the machine, another little sliding piece will come down. Yes, it's going to smash your boobie like a pancake. But it's for your health, it's for your benefit, and it doesn't hurt that bad. Like they say, it doesn't hurt. I've had it, and trust me, I didn't have anything. They actually had to try to make something to put up there on the thing. So when I tell you it did hurt me, and just it doesn't hurt. So I tell and I encourage women, get your mammogram. Get your mammogram. And so it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your health. So I encourage you, especially if you have a family history of breast cancer. Even women nowadays are being diagnosed without a family history. I know several people that they're the first one and never had a family history. So when you turn 40, go ahead and start getting your mammogram. Do your self-breast exam. Do them every month. Do it before your cycle comes on, and do it after your cycle comes on. I strongly suggest that you do it twice, because you can feel it a little bit better right before the cycle and after the cycle.
Right. Yes. And so I guess you kind of answered my next question, but like, could you reiterate just how would they do like the home checkups for breast cancers? Like, is there specific signs they should look for other than like lumps? Is there any other symptoms they should look out for?
Soreness in your breast, and especially your nipple. Just check around your areola, and just, if it's tender, and sometimes you might have a drainage out your nipple. If you have a drainage, I encourage anybody to go and seek your doctor. And sometimes you might see a little blood in that nipple in the discharge. So I encourage you to actually go consult with the doctor, especially if you feel something. Make sure when you're taking your exam, lay flat on your back and just get your hand and put it behind your head while you're laying flat, and just check up under your arm all over, and then come all the way down and check around your breast, and then just check around and just make sure you don't feel anything. And if you feel something, I encourage you to go and get it checked out, even if you think you feel something.
Right, yes. And is there any other advice that you would give to people regarding taking care of their health, like any like lifestyle habits that they need to have?
Um, okay, so being diagnosed. Okay, so can I go into a little history here?
Yes.
Okay. So being diagnosed with breast cancer the second time. So after receiving chemo, I had to have 6 cycles of chemotherapy, no radiation. So in the midst of me doing chemotherapy, they don't tell breast cancer women, because they put your port in on the left side, just right above where you're on the left side, right, just over to the left, just a little bit up above the heart. So what happens is, sometimes when the chemo is coming in, it goes directly to the heart and it's just bypass. So, and it happens, I want to say, they said it happens to 10 to 100 women that this actually occurrence happens. So it happened to me. So it attacked my heart 5 years later. I had a massive heart attack. I thought I was having heartburn, but actually, and I went to this little ER. It wasn't even a hospital. It was a ER clinic that I went to, because I thought I was having heartburn. And actually, they did an EKG when I came in, and they told me I had 2 heart attacks back to back. And the second heart attack was a massive heart attack. And your heart infraction is supposed to be anywhere from 55 to 60. Well, my heart infraction had declined to 25. And so when they called the doctor in to look over the EKG, they immediately rushed me to the heart hospital here in Columbia. So when I got to the heart hospital, the heart infraction had went down to 15. So the doctor that was on call then, and which is my heart doctor now, he actually called in my family and told them I only had 2 hours to live. And if they wanted to come and see me, they needed to get to Columbia right away. Well, being your great grandmother that she is, she said that it's too late for the family to travel down the dark road. We'll be there tomorrow, and she shall live and not die. She'll be there when we get there. So, hey, 2 o'clock the next day, I was still there. So my doctor that was on call, he said, I want to stay here and see your mother when she gets here, because if anything happens to me, I want her to be the one to send up a prayer for me, because you know I'm supposed to be here. So with that being said, they told me what happened was that the chemo had lingered around the heart wall. And just like a rat, he said, that goes back and eat cheese bit by bit by bit, that's what the chemo was doing to the heart wall. The chemo was biting at the heart wall bit by bit until it finally broke in and attacked the heart aggressively. So I had to be put on the heart transplant list. Had to go to Charleston. And going to Charleston, they have to check every organ to make sure your organ is operating properly before they put you on the transplant list to see if you're going to be able to take the transplant. Well, in the midst of them doing that, they did the female portion of it. So when they did the female portion of it, they saw one of my ovaries was real black and the other one was a little bit black. It had moved over a little bit. So they sent me back here to Columbia to my OBGYN, and they did this test called a CA-125 blood tumor test. And the blood tumor test came up positive that I had ovarian cancer. So had I known when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, the second time or the first time, knowing that I wasn't going to have any more children, I would have done the complete hysterectomy. So I encourage women, especially if you're diagnosed with, if you positive for the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genetic testing, I encourage women to please consider having a complete hysterectomy, so you won't contract the ovarian cancer. So since I had the ovarian cancer, I've had several other cancers following the ovarian. So I've had due to ovarian cancer. So I've had colon cancer, and right now I'm battling cancer again for the cancer has spread it in 3 different places. So right now I'm undergoing chemotherapy for that.
Yes. Oh wow. Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That was really good advice. Definitely would recommend that for anybody listening to follow that advice.
Yes.
And what advice would you give to encourage other people who are also kind of facing that same battle with cancer or any other like serious illness?
Just be encouraged. And what my sources that I go to is just prayer, fasting, and just not taking life for granted, just enjoying every moment of life, doing things that I've always wanted to do, and just don't look at your situation or your condition and think it's the last, because it's not. I always tell people, just because the doctor gives you diagnosis, it's not God giving you the prognosis. So my prognosis is that I shall live and not die. So I just trust and I encourage myself. So and I encourage everybody else to encourage yourself. Go in the bathroom and look in the mirror and say, hey, greater that is in he that's in me than he of this world. Just encourage yourself. Just be your own motivator, because sometimes people look at you and say, oh, okay, what do I say? What do I say? What I say it to myself. So that's what I would do.
Yes. And so for anybody that would like to reach out to you, is there any social media that you would like to shout out for yourself?
Yes, they can reach me at on Facebook, and it's Williams Cyndi, WILLIAMS, Cyndi, CYNDI, and they can even reach out to me on Instagram at Loving Cyndi, CYNDI, and also I can give you my email too, and it's Cyndi White 15 at Gmail, because I do a lot of things. Kira, can you come here? I do a lot of advocate for different people.
Yes, and then you guys can also follow her foundation page that she has when it's coming. It's coming soon. It's called My Heart, My Breast Foundation. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and advice.
Thank you for having me, sweetheart.
Yes.
And also, I want to include too, this is what I wanted to say as well. Sometimes people think is whatever we eat, or if we go vegan, yes, that stuff helps as well as exercising. I was a vegetarian. I also was a vegan, and I still got cancer. So it is what you eat, and it is too. That's a positive. But sometimes if you have the family history, it's just there.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yes, and so now we're going to get into the heart to heart segment. So, the Motivation Monday quote of the week was, "The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow." And I love this quote because a lot of the time people think that when you're struggling or when you're going through something, that's just it for you. But every struggle is just building you to become the best person you can possibly be, and you will gain so much strength and knowledge through your struggle. So just stay on the course and just know that everything is temporary and you will get through whatever you are facing. And once you make it through, you'll have such a powerful testimony to give to others. So, Aunt Cyndi, do you have anything you want to add to that?
You summed that up perfect. That was awesome. Yes, that was awesome. And also, I'm going to be, I'm in the process of writing my book that I've asked my beautiful great niece to help me with. So we're going to be, once that is completed, and we're going to be sharing that as well. So I want my ladies and gentlemen, my sons, I have 3 sons, and each one of them has to be tested as well for breast cancer, because I am BRCA1, BRCA2. So like you stated in the beginning, men also can have breast cancer. So you check yourselves as well, men. It's very important, especially if you have a family history. I also want to note too that this is domestic violence month as well. So and if you can, just encourage victims that's been a victim of violent crimes.
And thank you for also shouting that month out as well. October has a lot of very significant meaning to it.
Yes.
So again, please be sure to follow my Aunt Cyndi on Instagram at Loving Cyndi, and on Facebook at William Cyndi. And then also be on the lookout for her foundation page, My Heart, My Breast. And that is all for today's episode of Talks with Tatyana. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at TalksWithTatyana_, on Facebook at Talks with Tatyana, and on Twitter at Talk with Tatyana without the S after talk. Turn on your post notifications, and please leave ratings, reviews, and share with your friends. Until next time, remember, stay open, stay kind, and keep fighting the good fight.